Let me ask you something. When was the last time your own mind gave you a full night's peace? No replaying old arguments, no dreading tomorrow, no scrolling bad news at 2 a.m. If you cannot remember, you are in remarkable company. Because the most powerful man who ever lived had exactly the same problem, and the way he solved it still works. It is past midnight on the cold edge of the known world. A river runs black in the dark, the Danube, and beyond it, the forests of the barbarians. Inside a leather tent, a single oil lamp is burning, and a tired man is awake when he should be asleep. He is not young, he is sick. His stomach has troubled him for years. Outside, an army of tens of thousands waits on his word. A plague is loose in that army, a sickness that has already emptied whole cities behind him. He has buried most of his children. He will not see Rome again for years, and some part of him knows it. This man is the single most powerful human being alive. He commands the legions. He commands the treasury of an empire that stretches from the edge of Britain to the sands of the Sahara. If he wants a thing, it is simply done. And what does he do? In the dead of that freezing night, with the whole world at his feet, he picks up a pen and he writes himself a note. Not a decree, not an order, a note to no one but himself. He reminds himself that he is going to die. He reminds himself to be patient with the difficult men he will meet in the morning. He reminds himself that anger is weakness, that fame is smoke, that the only thing he truly controls in all this vast empire is what happens inside his own head. He has no idea that anyone will ever read these words. He is not writing a book. He is doing maintenance on himself. He is running a piece of mental software, a set of instructions for getting through a hard day. That is already, on that night, nearly 500 years old. The man is Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome. And the notebook in his hands will outlive his empire, his statues, and his name. Because those private notes will one day be called the Meditations. And what they describe is not a religion, not a mood. It is an operating system for hard days. And by the end of this story, you will hold all 4 of its commands in your own hands, ready to run the next time life presses down on you. This is the story of how it was built. And why, 18 centuries later, it still runs. To understand the man in the tent, we have to leave the tent and travel back, nearly 5 centuries before him, to a marketplace in Athens. Around the year 300 before Christ, there is a merchant here, a Phoenician trader named Zeno from the city of Citium on the island of Cyprus. And Zeno has just lost everything. His ship went down, his cargo, precious purple dye, is at the bottom of the sea. He washes up in Athens with nothing, a ruined businessman, wondering what is left. He wanders into a bookshop. And he starts to read about the old philosopher Socrates. And something in him catches fire. Years later, Zeno would joke that he made a prosperous voyage on the day he was shipwrecked. Because losing the cargo is what led him to philosophy. Zeno begins to teach, but he has no grand academy, no marble hall. So he simply gathers his students under a covered walkway on the edge of the marketplace, a painted porch, its walls covered in murals of old battles. In Greek, a porch like that is called a stoa, and so the people give his followers a nickname, taken from the place they stand. The people of the porch, the Stoics. That is all the word ever meant. Not cold, not emotionless, just the men from the porch. And the thing they taught on that porch was blunt and practical and almost shockingly modern. Most of what happens to you, they said, is out of your hands. The weather, the market, your body, other people, what the crowd thinks of you, even your own reputation. None of it is truly yours. But one thing is, your own judgment, your own choices, what you decide to do right now with what has landed in front of you. And they claim something radical, that this narrow sliver of things you actually control is enough to build a whole good life on, enough to be unshakable. And notice what they were not saying. They were not telling you to feel nothing. That is the great modern misunderstanding of the word. To be stoic today means to sit stone-faced while your world burns. That is not it. The Stoics dealt everything: grief, fear, love, rage. What they trained was the gap, the half second between what happens and how you answer it. In that half second, they said, "Live your entire freedom." Now, a philosophy is only as convincing as the people who live it, and the strange, beautiful thing about Stoicism is who it gathered. Move forward almost 400 years to the Roman Empire and meet two men at the absolute opposite ends of the world. The first was born a slave. His name was Epictetus. He grew up as property in the household of a rich man in Nero's Rome. He was, by tradition, lame in one leg. Some say his master broke it. He owned nothing. He controlled nothing, not even his own body. But before Epictetus ever taught anyone, he was taught, and his teacher deserves his own moment in this story. His name was Musonius Rufus, a Roman knight who gave up the ordinary path of a rich man to teach philosophy in the middle of Nero's Rome. Origen, writing later, called him a kind of Roman Socrates. And Musonius taught one thing that, for the first century, was close to scandalous. He argued that women should study philosophy exactly as men do, because virtue, he said, is not a male thing. It is a human thing. The same courage, the same self-command, the same capacity to reason your way through a bad night. Nero exiled him for it, twice. The second time to Gyros, a bare rock of an island in the Aegean, a place Romans used the way later ages used Alcatraz. And by the ancient account, Musonius simply got to work, found water on the island, turned the soil, and students sailed out to that rock to keep learning from him anyway. That is what these people meant by philosophy, not opinions, conduct. And it was this man, a crippled slave, who became one of the greatest teachers Stoicism ever produced. Once freed, Epictetus opened a school, and he taught one idea above all others, an idea that would land centuries later on the desk of an emperor. We do not control what happens to us, he said. We only control how we meet it. From a man who had been owned, that was not a theory. It was a survival tool. Now meet the second man. As far from a slave as you can get, Seneca, fabulously wealthy. A famous playwright, a senator, and the personal tutor, then advisor, to the Emperor Nero himself. Seneca wrote letters on how to live, on how short life is, on how to face loss, on how to die well. And history handed him the cruelest test imaginable. When Nero turned on him and accused him of plotting against the throne, the emperor sent an order. "Take your own life!" And Seneca, the Stoic who had written for years about facing death calmly, had to actually do it. In the year 65, he opened his veins and, by the ancient account, died as steadily as he had written. So look at what Stoicism had become. A shipwrecked merchant, a freed slave, a billionaire senator, and, soon, an emperor. Top of the world and the very bottom. The same operating system ran on all of them. That is the first clue to why it lasts. It was never built for one kind of life. It was built for any human being having a hard day. So let us actually open it up. What is inside this thing? Strip away the Latin and the marble, and Stoicism runs on a handful of core commands. Simple to state, brutally hard to run. Here is the first, and everything else is built on top of it. The Stoics called it the dichotomy of control, a fancy phrase for a plain idea. Some things are up to you, most things are not. Epictetus opens his little handbook with it, almost like a line of code. In one translation, some things are in our control and others not. Your actions, in your control. Your opinions, your effort, your response, in your control. Everything else, your health, your reputation, the outcome, other people, tomorrow, not in your control. And here is the move. You pour all your energy into the first column and you let go of the second. Not because you are lazy, because it is the only sane place to spend a life. The Stoics said almost all human misery comes from one mistake, trying to control the second column. Trying to force outcomes. Trying to own other people's opinions. Trying to grip the weather. You suffer, they said, not because things are hard, but because you demanded that they be otherwise. Picture the most ordinary version of it. You are stuck in traffic and you are furious. But the traffic does not care. The traffic is column 2, utterly out of your hands. Your fury changes nothing on the road and ruins the one thing you own, the next hour of your life. The Stoic does not pretend to enjoy the traffic. He simply stops spending himself on a thing he cannot move. Which brings the second command. If you cannot control what happens, then learn to meet it without flinching. Later thinkers gave this a name, amor fati, the love of fate. That exact phrase, in fact, was coined much later by the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche. But he was putting a label on something the Stoics already lived. Do not just tolerate what happens to you. Do not just endure it. Come to want it. To treat the obstacle in your path, not as the thing blocking the way, but as the way itself. Marcus wrote a version of this to himself in the tent, that the mind adapts and converts to its own purposes the obstacle to our acting. What stands in the way becomes the way. Think of what that does to a setback. The job you lost, the illness, the plan that fell apart. The ordinary mind says, "This is the wall stopping my life." The Stoic mind says, "No, this is my life now. This is the material I have been handed, and the only question is what I build from it." Same event, two completely different worlds to live in. The third command is the darkest, and, the Stoics swore, the most freeing. Two words in Latin, memento mori, remember that you will die. There is an old story, told for centuries, though historians warn it may be more legend than fact, that when a Roman general rode through the city in a great victory parade, a servant stood behind him in the chariot, whispering in his ear, over and over, beneath all the cheering, "Remember, you are only a man. Remember, you will die." Whether or not any servant ever really said it, that is the whole exercise. Not to be morbid. The opposite, to wake you up. You do not have unlimited time. You have today. So, the small stuff, the insult, the traffic, the thing you are furious about, hold it up against the fact of your own death and watch how fast most of it shrinks to nothing. And the fourth command is the one Marcus loved most, a mental trick he ran on himself again and again in that notebook. Scholars later called it the view from above. When the world presses in, when the argument feels enormous, when your own problems fill the whole sky, you rise. In your mind, you lift up, above the tent, above the army, above the river, the province, the whole empire, until the earth is just a small blue thing turning in the dark. And from up there, you look back down at your one small life. Your enemies? Tiny. Your worries? Tiny. The borders men kill for, invisible from that height. Marcus used it to shrink his own importance on purpose, to remember he was one man in one moment on one small planet and that this was a relief. And here is the strange gift of it. When you shrink yourself, you also shrink your problem. The thing that felt like the end of the world, seen from the ground, is a speck, seen from the stars. He would remind himself how many people had once stood exactly where he stood, worried about exactly the things he worried about, and were now simply gone and forgotten and at peace. Not to frighten himself, to free himself, to hand the weight back to the universe, which had been carrying it just fine without him. Look at those four commands together. Control what you can, release what you can't, love your fate. Remember, you'll die. See it all from above. That is not a religion. There are no gods to obey, no heaven promised, no ritual required. It is closer to a set of habits, of mind, a discipline you practice like an athlete, which is exactly how the Stoics described it. Philosophy, they said, is not something you believe. It is something you train. And they had drills, real ones. The most famous is a mouthful of Latin, Premeditatio malorum, which just means pre-studying the bad. Before your day begins, you take a quiet minute and you rehearse what could go wrong. The meeting collapses. The diagnosis is bad. The person you love is not there anymore, which sounds, on the face of it, like a fast route to misery. It is the opposite. Seneca put the reason in one line, writing to his friend Lucilius, "There are more things likely to frighten us than there are to crush us. We suffer more often in imagination than in reality. That is the whole trick. Fear feeds on the unexamined. Look straight at the thing in daylight on your own terms, and it stops being a monster in the dark and becomes a problem with a shape. Seneca even ran the physical version. Set aside a few days, he wrote, and live on the plainest food and the roughest clothes you own. Then ask yourself the honest question, is this really what I was so afraid of? You are not punishing yourself. You are proving to yourself that the floor is closer than you thought, and that you would survive hitting it. Do that a few times, and a great deal of what runs your life quietly loses its grip on you. And now, finally, we can go back to the man in the tent and understand what he was really doing. Marcus Aurelius was born in the year 21 into a wealthy Roman family. He was not born to rule. He was chosen, marked out as a boy for his seriousness, and carefully groomed to one day take the throne. And here is the detail that matters most for our story. As a young man, Marcus had a teacher, a Stoic philosopher named Junius Rusticus. And one day, Rusticus reached into his own personal library and lent the future emperor his copy of the lectures of Epictetus, the freed slave. Marcus tells us this himself years later. In the very first pages of his notebook, he thanks Rusticus by name for putting those words in his hands. Think of that chain. A man born a slave who owned nothing, whose words are copied down by a student and handed 100 years on to the boy who will inherit the whole Roman world. And the emperor reads the slave and never lets go. That is Stoicism, doing the one thing it was built to do, jump every wall of status and speak to any human being who is struggling. In the year 51, Marcus becomes emperor of Rome. He does not even take the throne alone. He insists on sharing it, ruling side by side with an adopted brother, Lucius Verus. And almost at once, the hard days begin. Not a golden reign, a siege of one. Wars erupt on the northern frontier along that Black River and drag on for years. History would call them the wars against the Marcomanni and their allies. A monstrous plague sweeps in from the east, later named the Antonine Plague, after his own family line, and rips through the empire, soldier and citizen alike, killing, by some estimates, millions. His co-emperor, his adopted brother, dies partway through the reign and leaves Marcus to carry the whole weight alone. The treasury runs dry, rivers flood, and death comes again and again into his own house. Of the many children born to Marcus and his wife, most did not live to grow up. This is the man writing the notebook, not a serene sage on a mountaintop. An exhausted, grieving, sickly ruler holding an empire together with his bare hands, who has decided that the only way through is to coach himself, one page at a time. And that is the key to the whole book. Marcus never meant for you to read it. He gave it no title. The name we use, Meditations, was pinned on it centuries after his death. In the original Greek, the closest thing to a title just means to himself. That is who the audience was. Himself. One reader. He writes the same lessons over and over and over because he keeps forgetting them the way we all do. He scolds himself, he pep talks himself, he catches himself being petty and corrects it on the page. Open it, and one of the very first things he does, in one well-known modern translation, is prepare for the morning. When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. Read that again. That is the most powerful man on earth, psyching himself up to be patient with annoying colleagues. It is so human, it almost hurts. In another passage, he catches himself not wanting to get out of bed and argues himself up the way any of us do on a gray Monday. In that same modern translation, he tells himself, at dawn, when you struggle to rise, remember you were made to do the work of a human being. So why are you complaining if you are going out to do what you were born for? An emperor. Talking himself out from under the blankets. There is no throne in these pages, no conquest, no glory, just a man telling himself to be a little better tomorrow than he was today. He writes that the best revenge is to not be like your enemy, that you could leave life right now, so let that decide what you do and say. That very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking. In the year 80, Marcus Aurelius dies, most likely near that same frontier he had spent his life defending. He is remembered as the last of a run of rulers later ages would call Rome's good emperors. And here is the bitter irony history could not resist. All that wisdom, and the one thing Marcus could not control, was the son he left the empire to. His boy Commodus took the throne and became one of the most erratic, self-obsessed rulers Rome ever endured. The father who wrote a book on mastering himself produced an heir who mastered nothing. The line of good emperors ended in a single generation in his own house. Even the great Stoic could not command column 2, and then the notebook nearly vanishes. It was never published in his lifetime. It survived, barely, by luck and by copyists passed hand to hand down the centuries. And that survival is far thinner than most people realize. For centuries after Marcus died, the notebook is almost invisible in the record. No publisher, no copies flooding the empire, just a private text drifting quietly through the hands of whoever happened to think it mattered. Then, around the year 900, more than 7 centuries after that night by the Danube, a Byzantine scholar and bishop named Arethusa of Caesarea gets hold of a copy. And Arethusa does the one thing that saves it. He has it copied, and he talks about it, mentions it in his letters, points other scholars toward it. One enthusiastic reader, at exactly the right moment, keeping a dead emperor's diary in circulation. And it stays in that fragile hand-copied state for another 600 years. The book does not reach a printing press until 1559, when a scholar named Wilhelm Xylander publishes the first printed edition, working from a manuscript held in the library at Heidelberg. And here is the detail that should stop you. That manuscript, the one the first printed edition was made from, is gone. Lost. It does not exist anymore. If Xylander had not printed it when he did, we might have nothing. Every copy on every bedside table in the world today hangs off a chain of lucky accidents. One Byzantine bishop who liked it, one printer who got there in time. A private diary, never meant for daylight, that refused to die. So why are we still talking about it? A dead emperor's private diary. Because the operating system still runs on modern hardware. Consider this. In the 1950s, an American psychologist named Albert Ellis was looking for a better way to treat human misery, the anxiety, the depression, the spinning thoughts. And he built a new kind of therapy. Its core idea was this: it is not events that disturb us, but our beliefs about those events. Change the belief, and you change the suffering. That idea grew into what we now call cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, one of the most tested, most effective psychological treatments in the world today. Millions of people have been helped by it, and Alice was completely open about where he got it. He lifted it, almost word for word, from Epictetus, the freed slave on the porch, who had said 2,000 years earlier, "People are disturbed not by things, but by their opinions about things." Sit with that. The most modern, evidence-based therapy we have is, at its root, ancient Stoicism, in a lab coat. The porch never closed, it just changed its name. And the deepest proof of the idea came from the darkest place imaginable. A man named Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist, survived the Nazi death camps. He watched everything be stripped from human beings, their homes, their families, their names, their bodies. Everything in column 2, gone. And in the book he wrote afterward, he set down what he had learned there. That they could take everything from a man, but one thing, the last of the human freedoms. The freedom to choose your own attitude in any circumstance at all. He did not call it Stoicism. He did not need to. He had rediscovered, in a place of pure horror, the exact thing the emperor scribbled in his tent and the slave taught on his porch. Even here. Even now. What you do with it is still yours, and you can feel why it spreads now in this exact moment. We live drowning in the second column, the things we cannot control, a fire hose of news, numbers we cannot move, 1,000 opinions about us, arriving on glowing screens every hour. Comparison without end. And here comes a 2,000-year-old voice, calm and unbothered, saying, none of that is yours. Put it down. Control your judgment, your effort, your response, and let the rest go. And look at who reaches for it now. Not dusty professors. Soldiers, carrying a battered copy of the Meditations into the field the way soldiers have for generations, athletes before the biggest moment of their careers, founders staring down failure. People in recovery, people in prison, people, quite simply, having the worst year of their lives. 2,000 years after a man scribbled these notes for an audience of one, he has more readers than he ever had subjects. Why? Because he was not selling comfort. He was not promising that it all works out. He was handing over a tool, the same tool, unchanged, for the exact moment when it does not work out and you still have to get up and face the morning and be a decent human being anyway. It is not a cure for a hard life. The Stoics never promised that. Marcus had every advantage a human can have, and he still buried his children and fought his wars and woke up sick and tired in the dark. The point was never to escape the hard days. The point was to have something to run when they come. That is what he left us. Not a fortune. That turned to dust. Not an empire. That fell. Not even his name, really. He left a set of instructions, simple enough to fit in a notebook, hard enough to take a lifetime. Written by a man who was not trying to teach you anything, only trying, one more time, to get himself through the night. And here is the last quiet twist. For all his discipline, all his commands and exercises, Marcus was still, always, fighting his own mind, reminding it, correcting it, dragging it back into line, page after page. He was trying to do something human beings have been attempting for as long as there have been human beings. To sit still with our own thoughts and not be ruled by them. The Stoics did it with a pen and a notebook and a set of reminders, but they were far from the first to try. On the other side of the world, long before Zeno was ever shipwrecked, long before any porch in Athens, other people had gone looking for the same silence by a completely different road. Not by writing, by breathing, by sitting, by emptying the mind instead of instructing it. We call it meditation. And its story runs back 3,000 years, from monks in silent caves all the way to a brain scanner in a modern laboratory, watching in real time what happens inside a mind at rest. How did a practice from ancient monasteries end up as data on a neuroscientist's screen? That is next time on The Better Self. If sitting with the man in the tent taught you something tonight, follow the channel and stay for what the silence reveals.